The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Connected Table Live. We're your hosts, Melanie Young and David Ransom, your insatiably curious culinary couple. We bring you the dynamic people who work front and center and behind the scenes in wine, food, spirits, and hospitality around the world. We enjoy traveling. We enjoy bringing their stories to you, our listeners, and we hope you'll take our suggestions and theirs as well and go out and try their wines, visit their restaurants, visit their wineries, and be adventurous. Because we always believe life is about eating, drinking, exploring, and inspiring. And speaking of inspiring, we have a guest joining us from a region we recently visited, Abruzzo, right, David?
Absolutely, Melanie. A place that we had not been to before, so it was an eye-opener for us in a lot of ways. And lovely wines, wonderful people, and of course, a great coastline.
So just a little visualization about where is Abruzzo. It is on the Adriatic side of Italy. And what's neat about Abruzzo is on one side is bordered by the Apennine Mountains, which are really like the spine of Italy. They travel down the center and they're very steep. And it's a very dramatic drive, actually, which we did from the coast of Abruzzo to Rome through the Apennines. And then on the seaside, it's Adriatic, which has very calm waves. It's very placid there. It's a popular vacation spot, very low key. We stayed at a lovely, tourist hotel, lots of fun restaurants, obviously seafood, but also this area is known for its meat dishes as well as seafood because you've got the mountains and you've got the sea. So our trip was to learn about the wines of Abruzzo, and we had an incredible experience. And so our guest today is one of the wineries we visited. And this is I think a young producer doing a lot of things that we're seeing happening or starting to happen around Italy. He works with Amphora. His name is Francesco Cirelli, and he and his wife Michela own an organic farm surrounded about 23 hectares, more inland near the Gran Sasso National Park, which we'll talk about. As we said, he works in Amphora, which is his thought process. He is Demeter certified and fairly a young producer. And we're really excited to have Francesco Cirelli join us on the Connected Table. Benvenuto.
Grazie mille. Thank you so much for this invitation. I appreciate that.
Well, Francesco, we're happy to have you on. And we really enjoyed visiting your winery as well. It was, as Melanie said, you create your wines in Amphora, which is kind of a growing trend in a lot of places in Italy and around the world these days to use Amphora to make some of the wines. But you actually make all your wines in Amphora. So you've gone a step further. And we were really happy to taste the wines, too. They were just delicious.
Let's start with location. We kind of set you up, but I have to say it was quite the ride in our bus to Agricolo Cirelli, which is really a more inland and in a very dramatic area. So set the stage by describing where you are in the region of Abruzzo.
Yes, sure. Thanks for this opportunity. I always love to talk about my region and the place where we are. So I can say that we are almost in the middle of nowhere, but only just 13 kilometers from the sea and 40 kilometers from the Gran Sasso, which is the highest peak of the Italian Apennines. And we are in a hilly area right inside a natural reserve called Riserva dei Calanchi di Atri, which is under the patronage of the WWF.
It was a very dramatic place, Melanie. We went down a number of very small and potholed roads to get there. It was kind of fun. And it was pouring rain when we got there. But then the sun came out and everything opened up and we had a beautiful visit with you. They have in that valley that Francesco's winery and Melanie, they also have some badlands, which are steep slope that you really can't grow anything on. So it was really very dramatic and really, quite beautiful.
Like the Calanchas. We're curious, Francesco, what brought you to this area? Did you come here as a young boy and you were drawn back?
Yeah. Nice question. Actually, it just happened. So at that time, when I was 23 years old, I was almost on my way to get my graduation in business administration at Italian university. But at the same time, I was dreaming about being involved at some level in agriculture, in farming, because my grandparents were both sides coming from the land, from the soil. And so I started dreaming and sharing this dream with my parents. And one day it happened that we just got lost there. I mean, driving the car, trying to see beautiful places and looking for properties to buy. We ended up in that place. We just stepped down the car and we had this dramatic view in front of us, the Badlands and the Apennines and the sea on the west side, on the east side actually. And we felt in love immediately, and we were lucky enough that there was a ticket with a phone number saying that that property was on sale. And that night, I mean, I just came back home, and the first thing I did was calling this family, and after 1 month the deal was done, and I changed totally my life, and I moved back to Abruzzo and I start my my dream.
That's serendipity.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah.
Amazing.
So this was 2003, and then you said about
Yes.
Obviously you bought the property and you said about planting vineyards.
There was a very old vineyard which I wasn't able to save because it was planted at that time. I mean, in a bad place, so it was not suitable for a high quality project which I had, like the one I had in my mind. And so I had to destroy it, and we replanted from scratch. So when I purchased the land, there was only this old vineyard and 1 hectare of olive trees, and that's all. So there was almost nothing.
And vines take time. So you produced your first wine in, I believe, 2011, right?
Yeah, because the first vineyard I planted was in 2006. So I had to wait 5 years before getting good fruit.
And you're self-taught. So we just want to, talk about that. So during this time, did you apprentice with it? I mean, obviously from a business standpoint, that's a long time to wait to start producing your inventory. Did you during that time study or apprentice with anybody, or kind of give us that sense of how you became the winemaker as well as the business person?
Yeah, well, actually, that was one of the craziest thing I've done. So starting everything from scratch without any knowledgeable about winemaking. So at that time, I had this good friend who was a winemaker and also a very interesting small producer of wines in Abruzzo. And I remember that the first day of the harvest, I brought all the grapes in the garage because at that time I haven't had, a real winery. So I was making my first attempts with my first 3 amphores in my garage. And I called him and I almost prayed him, just please explain me how to start the press. So I didn't know even how to start the machine. So it was like, I don't know how to call it, actually. It was something crazy, but it worked. So I'm happy.
That's great. You actually learned from the ground up, as they say.
Yeah, I say that I learned by mistaking. I don't know if that makes sense in English, but we have this word in Italian. So learning about with a lot of mistakes, thanks to a lot of mistakes and failures. And now, in the last years, of course, we grow up. We are doing some more bottles, and I decided to hire a full-time winemaker with my right hand, and we are doing everything together. So at a certain point, it's important to recognize your limit and build a team that can manage everything better than what you can do.
Well, you have to divide and conquer as in business to build your team. Otherwise, you're doing it all yourself, and that doesn't get you anywhere except in circles. So a couple of things. You are 100% organic, minimal intervention. And as we said at the beginning, you do your vinification and everything in amphora. Why is this important to you? And let's talk about your philosophy.
Yeah, my philosophy is very simple. Less is more, and I truly believe that amphora really helped me to get to this point where the less we make, the better it is. So we try to respect the fruit, and we try to do the less during the winemaking in order to put in the bottle a real, authentic picture of our terroir. And amphora, I mean, really, it's so helpful because it doesn't give any flavor, any external flavor to the wine. It respects the original flavor and the original taste of the wine. It just helps the wine to refine, respecting its authenticity.
We have had a lot of conversations with vintners about amphora, from the size to the shape to the material made. You have different amphora at Chiarelli. How do these elements impact the wine? And I mean, I guess we equate it much like barrels, different sizes and materials impact the wine. So give us an example with the amphora you use, the different kinds.
So the best example is the fact that, I mean, the amphora works like exactly like a barrique, so a wooden cask. But I mean, because it allows the wine to breathe and to get the oxygen from the outside, but it doesn't give any added flavor. So this is the magic about amphora, and also it really helps the wine to moderate the tannins because of the oxygen and because of its form and dimension, so and size. So it's a great container. I mean, I'm so happy about that. That's why I'm only working with amphora since the real beginning, since vintage 2011. I never changed it, and I don't think I will never change them.
Two other questions that I'll let David ask. You specifically source from amphora in Tuscany, and I think this producer is fairly prolific. So why is that? And is it a more expensive process to do this than barrique?
Yeah, I'm sourcing. I'm sourcing them for us mostly 99% from Artenova in Tuscany, because at that time in 2011, when I start studying and analyzing the market of the amphoras, it was the first result I got on Google. So, and they were, I mean, the only one doing, I mean, on a professional way. So I called them and I visited them, and I was just impressed by the quality of their work. And also in the last years, I found another producer from a different area, but I only have one amphora from this guy from Tava, which is in up northern Italy in Trentino. And the cost of production, yes, it's tremendously more expensive because, I mean, you really need to, you can only work by hand, and everything has been by hand, and you have to be so severe when it comes to cleaning. And so you have to spend a lot of water and a lot of steam. So yeah, the final, I mean, at the end of the year, the cost is pretty bigger.
I'm curious, Francesco. One of the things that people pay attention to a lot in winemaking is temperature control, which is why the stainless steel tanks are jacketed with the cooling unit. But you can't do that with amphora. So how do you control the temperature in the winery when you're making wine to make sure that you're getting the best wine that you can out of the amphora?
Yeah, so there are solutions also if you work with amphoras. So there are some ways, more let's say artisanal way to control the temperatures, but actually we excavated and we built this kind of a amphoraia, so the place where all the amphoras are, and we covered them with sand and stones, so to keep the temperature as stable as possible. And we do have very good results, especially with the whites and the rosé. And sometimes we can suffer a little bit on with the red, with the Montepulciano d'Abruzzo, but I mean, so far so good.
We saw the sand and stone. It was like they were buried, and that's how they do it also in Georgia. We've seen the amphora buried in the ground.
Yeah, I've seen them at a couple other wineries in Italy as well.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
It's funny on your. So we want to just let our listeners know that Zev Rovine Selections is your importer, and on their site you talk about how you have to wear a bathing suit to get inside the amphora to clean it, because of course it's all about keeping everything clean. I'm trying to visualize that.
Yeah, that's the funny side.
What are some of the challenges of, it's a great philosophy, but with every pro, there's also a challenge. What are your challenges, starting with your location to your approach?
Well, yeah, I mean, we face many challenges over here. That's our job. So we always say that we are under the sky. And therefore, I mean, we cannot forecast, and so whatever it comes from the sky, we need to try to react in the best way possible. So the first challenge that we are facing those years is for sure the climate, because, for example, I mean, this year we had the most rainy year ever if we compare with the last 45 years in Abruzzo. So, and you experienced that because when you came, I mean, the weather was not that nice at all. So too much rain, and of course problems in the vineyards, and on the contrary, last year and the last 3 or 4 years we faced, I mean, drought and very hot temperatures. So every year is different. There is not consistent weather, and so yeah, we have to adapt to that. I think that this is the most difficult thing to manage, because I mean, if we have problems in the cellar, or I mean, logistics, warehouse, whatever, I mean, we can always fix it, but with the weather there is nothing to do, unfortunately. So it's pretty difficult. We'll see what's gonna happen in the next years.
Well, everybody is experiencing that, it seems like, right, David?
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Abruzzo is known for very specific grapes. First of all, are all your grapes estate grown, or do you source from elsewhere, Francesco?
When it comes to the wines that we produce in amphora, we only make them out of our property vines. But then we also have a kind of a second line, which, I mean, it's totally outsourced from organic certified producers. We're working with them since like 10 years now. And we produce a more entry-level daily drinking style wine, stainless steel tanks, fermented and refined, but still, I mean, a terroir-driven authenticity and simplicity, which is from our side, I mean, an added value.
So when we were there, we did a tasting. Explain what La Collina Biologica is and how it relates to
La Collina Biologica. Yeah, thank you for this. I mean, La Collina Biologica is like it's a negoce. So a negoce is, I mean, a way to produce wine outsourcing the grapes. So it's a brand that we established to deliver to the markets more entry-level wines, but still with authenticity and a sense of and a great sense of place. So that's La Collina Biologica. Whereas the amphora wines are under the brand Francesco Cirelli, right? Because as I was saying before, they're exclusively made out of our property vines and property grapes.
Thank you for that clarification. And just for our listeners, if you're shopping for these, you can't miss the label, because it's like a thumbprint of color in an amphora, like a big splop, or drop of wine splash in an amphora of white, red, and
Exactly.
rosé, and I think it's a very simple, but it actually the label kind of reflects the simplicity and it's a minimal intervention label.
That too.
Thank you. As I told you before, I mean, we are minimal, and we are for. I mean, we really believe that less is more. So the less we put in the label, the better it is also for the consumer.
Well, let's talk about some of the native grapes that you work with in your amphora, starting with, there's two in particular that Abruzzo is most well known for. We'll start with the white Trebbiano d'Abruzzo. Now, as we all know, there's many Trebbianos. It's a prolific grape, but it has its own unique style in Abruzzo and is a signature.
Yes, indeed. I think, I mean, of course, I mean, I'm totally involved in that, but I really find the Trebbiano to be one of the most interesting grapes because it has been valued for so many years. And even though, I mean, it has, I mean, all the quality and all the characteristics to shine for drinkability, but also for elegance and for aging. So we have iconic wineries in Abruzzo showing that Trebbiano can be a real an iconic wine all over the world, and we are so proud of that. But it's like, I mean, everything. I mean, it always depends. I mean, how you work with that grape. So you can make stupid wine with that grape, but you can even make. I mean, if you really believe and if you have a strong identity and clear ideas, you can really make great wine.
I always wonder, David and Francesca, why Trebbiano is malaligned, because it's prolific. It's everywhere. It's like the vine that creeps and crawls everywhere, but it's so different. And some regions respect it more than others. Don't you think, Francesca?
Yes, totally. Then it really depends from the tradition of this place. Italy, it has 19 or 20, I don't even remember, different regions, and every region shows its own tradition and history. And this tradition and history reflects also the idea that they have for that specific grape. So in Abruzzo, we change it. I mean, this common sense about the Trebbiano. And I mean, I say we, but actually, again, I mean, many producers did, I mean, a great job before. I mean, my before my wines, my starting in this work. So it really depends. I mean, what do you wanna do? Some regions, I mean, they're still focused on Trebbiano as a fruit suitable for bulk wines only, or for blending other wines. In Abruzzo, in the last 20 years, we wanted to. It's a kind of a renaissance. It's a new wave, and you said that at the beginning. There is a new generation of winemakers, especially small, one or second generation wineries that are really changing the way. And are really changing. I mean, the wine itself and the Trebbiano. So they're working differently in the vineyards and working differently during the winemaking in order to produce super authentic terroir-driven wines.
Liked them, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah,
I like them a lot. Francesco, another one of the grapes that you make wine with is actually kind of a favorite of mine from the region, Pecorino, another white. Let's talk about the Pecorino you make.
Yeah, Pecorino. I mean, it's let's say that it has been one of I would say the last discovery in Abruzzo. It's like again 20 years that winemakers started to replant it and and experimenting with that. With this grape, it's more aromatic than Trebbiano. It delivers more alcohol. It's pretty difficult to harvest this grape in the right moment. And I would say that, I mean, in my opinion, I don't think it has more complexity than Trebbiano, because I mean, I'm a truly lover and I'm a true fan of Trebbiano. So if I had to choose between the two, my heart will choose definitely Trebbiano. I think as Pecorino has a more, I would say more, how can I say that? More not standardized, but I mean, I think that it please a wider range of consumer. Let's put this way. Trebbiano is a little bit more niche, I would say. Pecorino, no.
The Trebbiano is more niche and the Pecorino, no? That's interesting.
Yeah, but that's my personal opinion. I mean, I'm sure. I mean, there are 30 winemakers from Abruzzo ready to disappoint what I'm saying, because I mean that's the magic of wine. I mean, it's so personal, it's so subjective. So yeah, I believe that. I believe that the Trebbiano for me it's more elegant and more refined. It's more yeah.
So I'm just
fascinating.
reading about it just for our listeners. Pecorino is really it's Abruzzo, the Marche. It's a very regionalized grape, not to be confused with the cheese, Pecorino cheese, even though the name is derived from the sheep, but they're very different. Those sheep used to eat the grapes on the ground. I'm reading here in a wine business, it's had a little bit of a renaissance in the United States, which is kind of interesting. But as you said, it was rediscovered. And making its way. We liked it a lot. You said it's difficult to work with. Why is that?
Because I mean because it delivers sugar so fast, and if you miss the right day, I mean, if you miss the right day of harvest, the day after you will get, I mean, 1 or 1.5 alcohol percentage more than the previous day, and so it's very difficult to deliver drinkability, because it tends to produce a lot of sugar and therefore a lot of alcohol.
Okay, well, that makes sense. Should we move on to reds?
Well, let's talk about the Cereswolo.
I thought we'd start with the Montepulciano Abruzzo, since that's what the Cereswolo is made with. Right. So let's start with the elephant, the biggie, the Montepulciano d'Abruzzo, which is the red, which has a long history, a lot of misconceptions still, and is the foundation for the Cereswolo d'Abruzzo, which we'll talk about next.
Yeah, well, in my opinion, I mean, Montepulciano d'Abruzzo it's like a Mustang. So it's, I mean, it's when I think Montepulciano d'Abruzzo, I imagine power and very powerful grape, and therefore powerful wine. So it's very hard from my side to deliver my style of Montepulciano, which is more which is mostly based on drinkability, acidity, and elegance. So and that's why, I mean, there was a misconception about this grape, because it has been always used as a blend to reinforce weak wines from different areas of Italy and Europe as well. So it's almost the same story of Trebbiano. Many years of bulk wine, low prices, bad images on the markets, and it's only the last 20, 25 years that, I mean, again, iconic winemakers and wineries were able to establish a new idea of Montepulciano d'Abruzzo as one of the candidates to produce, I mean, for sure, one of the best wine in Europe, easily.
Love the call. He calls it the Mustang. because it's like strong on heart and drive it fast. I'm thinking of drinking fast. In the United States, it's less. It's an inexpensive wine in the United States, and probably few people are unaware of its potential. Because as you said, it was like you said with Trebbiano, bulk wine, which is like a lot of Italy. For a long time, Italian wine producers needed to make money and they needed to sell wine.
Exactly.
So they went bulk versus quality. And then this huge shift started happening about 20 years ago to go focus on quality and lower yields to do finer wines. It's all a philosophical approach to business, right?
Exactly. It's all about your philosophic approach.
How would you compare? I always like doing this because again, this is a podcast. So I try to help our listeners visualize or think in a tactile way. How would you compare, or what grape would you compare Trebbiano d'Abruzzo to if someone was thinking, I'd like to try it, but what is it like? What is it compared to?
Wow, that's a very difficult.
It is, but that's how a lot of Americans think, Francesco.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Trebbiano. What can be Trebbiano? If Montepulciano is a Mustang, Trebbiano could be, I would say, a Dolphin. Because it reminds me freshness, acidity, drinkability, smoothness, and also elegance. So if we want to continue using this animal symbolism, I think that dolphin can really fit into my idea of Trebbiano.
Well, we can't drink a dolphin, but I get the idea. But in terms of a grape, not to put you on the spot, but
in terms of grapes, it's the magic of the wine is the fact that every grape, tastes different. So it's very almost impossible to compare Trebbiano to any other grape of the world. There are some genetical similarities to the Uni Blanc in France, but if we think about flavorness, one of the best descriptor is the green almond. But again, just think about very drinkable yet elegant wine, taste it. That's the best way.
What about Montepulciano d'Abruzzo?
Montepulciano d'Abruzzo, it's red fruits, it's wild berries, and incredibly, even though I don't make any usage of wooden casks, at a certain point of its life, my Montepulciano start delivering like chocolate and coffee notes that I love totally.
Yeah, when I tasted them, I got a lot of earthy, brambly, blackberry, herbal notes, as you said. Sometimes you think about when you taste wine, you think about where the grapes are grown and the mountains and the forests and the trees and the foliage, and it all kind of builds into the character, the terroir.
Yeah, that's true.
So
let's talk about the Cereswolo, a wine that we don't get a lot of in the United States because it's a rosé, first of all. But most of the rosé that comes into this country is much lighter in color, dry acidity, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a style that you make in Abruzzo, the Cereswolo, that we really don't get a lot of, but it was just delicious. And it's a very gastronomic wine, in my opinion. So let's talk about it.
And it's unique to Abruzzo. Yeah, Cereswolo d'Abruzzo is a DOCG.
It's a DOC, yes, exactly. So, it's, I must admit that I'm a great fan of Cereswolo d'Abruzzo. It's probably my best preferred wine. So it's also because it was for us the most difficult wine to produce in amphora because it was so sensitive to the oxygen, and it was so hard to find the right balance during the winemaking, but also hard job. We had to work hardly in the vineyard to get the perfect maturation time. And that's why I love him. And it's also the wine that I always say that it's the wine that expresses the real soul of Abruzzo, because it's a simple wine. It could be rustic some way, but with a lot of passion, with a great heart, and very gastronomic. I just love him with everything we produce in Abruzzo, and it's also, I always say that it's the wine that best that express our traditions and our history. Because when it comes to the cuisine, we have three major culture within our region. We have, the cuisine from the sea, the cuisine from the hill, and from the mountains. Sorry, and Cerasuolo d'Abruzzo is the only wine fitting perfectly these three different cuisine, and that's why it's so magic, and that's why we love him. We love it here in Abruzzo. Unfortunately, it's so. I think that the 90% of the Cerasuolo d'Abruzzo DOC that we produce is sold within the region. But it's a huge pity because, again, it really match with a lot of different cuisine from all over the world.
Well, we fell in love with it.
We did a master class on.
We did do that. Yeah,
it was interesting, and I think you agree, David. The Cerasuolo d'Abruzzo is a deeper colored rosé. I think you do your maceration for 6 hours. So correct me if I'm wrong.
Exactly.
Right. And but the range was very different. They were different hues, different flavors, much like other styles of rosé. And if there's a rosé for everybody, what do you feel the ideal quintessential Cerasuolo d'Abruzzo? What would the ideal characteristics be like if you were a wine director talking to a customer, or someone trying to sell it to someone who is not familiar with it?
Yeah, I will definitely say versatility. So again, its versatility when it comes to one food pairing is incomparable.
Well, it's certainly a wine that can take you through a meal. I don't know if I would hang out and drink it sipping at the beach as much as I would with a really great piece of meat or chicken or a fish. What we do need to do a shout out about the cuisine of Abruzzo. We went to the Trabocchi restaurants.
Yeah.
Why don't you just because you mentioned cuisine and pairing, this is a great segue about some of the unique cuisines of Abruzzo. Let's start with the Trabocchi and what those are.
Well, Trabocchi, I'm sure you tasted the fish soup with the tomato sauce and with the different kind of fishes that you can fish from Trabocco, which is a very old system of fishing. It's called paranza. So they have these huge nets that they go underwater, and then they just hang it up and take all the fishes that they've been entrapped by this huge net. So fish soup, for example, is one of the best food pairing for me.
So when you go to these, they're old fishermen processing huts. I guess they're really huts, facilities. They look like, somebody described them as, they look like spiders standing in the water.
They look like spiders.
Stilts. Yeah. And you cross, they're very rustic. When we dined at one, the water was just below us. Yeah. and the facilities were a long way away. And the food just kept coming out and coming out and coming out. And it was really interesting.
Yeah, it's one of the places where I always bring. I mean, my importers or clients from especially from US, from also from other nations. And I mean, they often come to visit us, and they just, I mean, love the Trabocco style and yeah, the life that we have here in Abruzzo.
It is a surprise, isn't it? Now, speaking of coming there, you took us to show us your glamping.
Yeah.
You have two glamping little cabins. Talk to us about the experience.
Yeah, I mean, it was another dream, a dream into the dream, a dream in a dream. So 3 years ago, we were just bored by the COVID period. We were locked in our house, and together with my wife, Michaela, we start thinking about the first thing we will do after the COVID, and we start dreaming about visiting, I mean, super cool countries and do some outside life and camping. And we start watching, I mean, following like Instagram accounts of these super cool and super Nordic designed cabins that we mostly have in the Nordic countries in Europe. And we said, wow, I mean, we have a good spot, we have a great nature. Why don't we make these, I mean, in our state, in our property? And so we started. I mean, it was almost like the amphoras. I mean, we fell in love with something, and we try to apply to our and we try to do that in our property, and it's working. We are so happy. Of course, it's so demanding because, I mean, hosting people is it's a kind of a mission. So you have truly believe in that, in the added value of hosting people and welcome people in your house. And we really do our best. The cabins are super comfortable with air conditioning and outstanding view on the valley. Come back soon and spend a few nights in our cabin.
How they really are out there. I mean, again, as you said, sometimes the most amazing things you take a lot more distance and effort to get to, and definitely Torelli is an example. How would people go about finding your winery and the glamping experience?
How?
Yeah. Do you work with a booking company, or do you just go to your website?
Yes, exactly. Through our website or Booking or Airbnb. We're almost on all the European platform for booking. But of course, I mean, we have our website, www.agricolacirelli.com, and you can just log into, and you find all there is also the virtual tour of the cabins, so you can step inside and see the furnitures and the view.
And we actually took a little tour of those glamping cabins too. They're they're kind of like safari tents, and really just
except they're cabins. They're not
I know
cabins, but they're really, really nice. I mean, they're
gorgeous,
well appointed. I mean, and let me just say, air conditioning. Air conditioning is a rarity in Europe, so that's like a big bonus. And hair dryers, so it has all the modern conveniences that one would want and need. But you're still way out there, and the views are amazing. There's olive groves, there's vines, there are these kalakis, and valleys and hills. It's quite spectacular. We have two final questions we'd like to ask you.
Sure.
First of all, who do you most admire in this industry, and why? I mean, you're self-taught. So it's always interesting to, we interview a lot of people that apprentice here and there, and they're born in wine families, et cetera. Being self-taught and an entrepreneur, it's interesting to see who you admire and why.
Well, there are many people that I admire because I'm very humble. So I know what my limits are, and I can easily recognize value of my colleagues. But I'll give you a smart answer I most admire some areas in Europe. They were able to really change the image of their wines and their terroir. For example, I'll give you the sample of Beaujolais or Loire or Jura. So they were really able to change the common sense and all the prejudice about their wines. And they did it like in 20 years or even less. And this is what I really wish for my region. It would be great to be able to make what they've done. Just think about Beaujolais and Morgon. I mean, their wines are now, I mean, in all the coolest wine lists in all over the world, and they were known just for, I mean, the new wine. I mean, every year with this Gamay that no one was attentioning, and they totally revolutionated, I mean, the idea. And so I admire, I mean, I mostly admire, I mean, these places where they were able to work as a team on the international markets.
That's a really neat comparison and a good one for Abruzzo. I mean, we were so impressed. We can't wait to go back. I mean, the wineries, I have to say, we hit the lucky draw when it came to the wineries we visited. They were amazing, including yours. And definitely have earmarked Abruzzo to go back because it is a vast region. I think a lot of people don't realize because they think it's a beachside community on the Adriatic, but much like Sicily, as we went, you go into that mountainous area of each area and you're blown away by the style and quality of the wines produced, because there's something about mountain wines that just scream terroir and all that tension and dealing with the different elements of weather, that those elements can create some amazing wines and soils, right?
Definitely. I mean, I love my region, and I always invite everybody to come and visit us. I mean, it's a great place still to discover. So a little adventures, great nature, great food, great people. I mean, a truly spiritual place where you can recover and at the same time, I mean, get, I mean, the best out from our land. We have the sea, we have mountains. We can ski in 45 minutes from Pescara, from the airport. In 45 minutes, you can go up the mountain and reach the first ski resorts. We have beautiful sea, fantastic hills. So we are pretty complete, and we are so pleased and so happy when people from outside come and visit us. So please do.
Well, we plan to come back again, and we encourage our listeners to do the same. Again, we have been speaking with Francesco Cirelli, who's really represents the new image of Abruzzo, the dynamic energy, the commitment to the soil and the earth and minimal intervention, and bringing out the true terroir and character of some wines that are very native to this area. You've got the Montepulciano d'Abruzzo, you've got Trebbiano d'Abruzzo, you've got the Pecorino, and of course, Cerasuolo d'Abruzzo. These are very unique to the region, and definitely worth seeking out when you dine out or go to your retail. Ask, I always say to people, ask and you'll get. Thank you for joining us. We just want to again give your website, Agricola Cirelli, CIRELLI.com. Thank you for joining us on the Connected Table.
Thank you, Melanie. Thank you, David, and thank you for to all your listeners.
Our pleasure. And as usual, we hope that you enjoyed this. We hope we've transported you somewhere new to discover, because we want you to stay insatiably curious.